So a couple weeks ago, I played Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater again for what I think was the third time, but what was certainly the first time that I actually really enjoyed playing through it. This time around, I got into a quick draw duel with Ocelot. I threw live snakes at guards to distract them. I got into the tops of trees and sniped people with my trank gun, and the reason I did all those cool things that made me enjoy the game is because I was playing on extreme difficulty. Both Snake Eater and Plants vs. Zombies, surprisingly, have taught me a lot about difficulty. They've taught me that it's not just this thing that you raise or lower in order to make the challenge better, in order to make it more difficult for you to progress. It's actually something that can be used to force the player to explore all the possibilities and all the strategies that are offered by a game system and mechanics. In Metal Gear Solid 3, the game actually sort of rewards you for being stupid on normal difficulty. Now, the Metal Gear series in general is sort of guilty of rewarding you for being stupid on normal difficulty, but in MGS3 it's really, really bad because of you grab someone in the face and then throw them down. That takedown move is way too powerful. And it sort of, when I went through the first several times, it did nothing for me because it was just too easy. I beat the end in, I think, less than 15 minutes. The end, the boss, not the end, the end. I beat the boss. Wow, that's confusing. I beat the boss at the end, called the boss in less than before the Snake Eater song even started up, and I beat the boss called the End, who shows up in the middle of the game. Oh God. Anyway, I was robbed of some really cool stuff by the normal difficulty because it was allowing me to basically just go around, get into alerts, and it's okay because when everybody comes out to attack you, all you have to do is grab them in the face and throw them fucking down, and it's fine. And that's kind of a silly way to have someone go through your game when you put all this other really interesting tangential stuff around it. But on extreme difficulty, I couldn't just sit there and let the pain shoot hornets at me and then just use a life medicine every time I thought I was going to get close to dying. Even in a boss fight that I thought was the most straightforward, stupid, irritating fight in the entire game versus the pain, all of a sudden, when you're on extreme difficulty, it turns into this really protracted sort of battle of attrition, this battle of wills where you're constantly jumping off and jumping from rock to rock and swimming and trying to evade them and trying to hide. And it's just a really interesting fight that was previously the dullest thing ever and then turned into this incredibly, I was in heaven when I was playing the pain fight on extreme. And that it also translated into the regular gameplay where I was actually having to sneak around for once. Imagine that, actually feeling the need to truly sneak around in a Metal Gear game. And because, yeah, I'd get killed if I didn't. I'd get completely torn to shreds, and extreme difficulty was the only difficulty I'd ever played on that actually reinforced that and said, hey, there's a lot of things you can do with the mechanics that we've given you. You can trank a lot of shit, you can shoot, beehives and stuff, that's great, but you really need to use all of them in order to progress. You can't just go around doing the stupid thing over and over and thinking, oh, isn't it nice that there's other shit that I can do, but I don't really feel like doing it. But to contrast a game where you die a lot to prove the difficulty versus one where you don't, I played through Plants vs. Zombies, the adventure campaign recently, and I didn't die once the entire time. And I really, really enjoyed it, and I still felt like it was challenging at the end. But what does that mean? How can a game be challenging if I never died once? If I never failed, how can you call it a hard game? Well, I think it felt hard, or it felt challenging at least, because I was constantly having to use these new strategies that I was being taught. I always felt like I was exploring the game space. I was exploring all the mechanics they were giving me, and I was finding new strategies, and just because I was constantly winning and constantly being rewarded for using these strategies didn't make me feel like I was being, held by the hand. It didn't make me feel like I was just doing the same thing over and over to no effect, because the game has a really, really good sort of flow and a good structure where, every level you'll see a new enemy, and then I get a new thing that defeats that enemy, and so you get these really simple strategies to begin with, just put a plant down here, it'll shoot at a zombie, and then you get another strategy that builds on top of that, get a wall, and then there's a zombie that jumps over the wall, and then all these strategies just build off of one another, build and build and build, until suddenly you've got these big complex relationship webs in your head that are completely internalized and completely easy to understand, but the game has just done a really good job of laying them all out. And since you're required to sort of learn these things to go on, the grace with which these things are presented to you gives you this feeling of, well, I'm actually learning things, this is actually difficult, without actually having to be so punishing, without having to dick you around so much that you keep dying over and over again, without having to become something like Mega Man. Which, there's a virtue to games like Mega Man or Ikaruga where the difficulty is in major part why you play the game, to have that feeling of having conquered something. But there's a beauty as well to just having just enough difficulty or having just enough of an illusion of difficulty to ask the player to really explore all the strategies that are available to them and to really understand exactly everything that's being put in front of them in mechanical terms, I think. But I do think that the idea of using difficulty as sort of a compass almost in this sort of a metaphorical map of the game where the compass is sort of telling you, this is what you can do, this is all the stuff that we laid out for you. I would suggest going this way. And if you get off the track, if you want to do something real stupid, the compass says, no, come on, let's go back to this part. This is the good shit. And having some freedom to navigate around is great, but having a difficulty setting that actually sort of focuses you in certain directions, or at least shows you that there are options, and doesn't allow you to just sort of bulldoze your way through like a moron, while still allowing for other fun shit, I think is ideal. I'm not going to end by sort of awkwardly going back on everything I've said and saying maybe it's all bullshit, because a lot of people pointed out that they didn't like that wishy-washiness. So if you have any comments about these Rev Rants, or you have anything you want to ask me to talk about, or anything you want to clarify, you can either email me at reverrandanthony@gmail.com, or you can write comments below this video, whether you're on YouTube or Destructoid or whatever. Thank you very much for listening.